Hello. Today General Hospital will reveal exciting events in the next 2 weeks from June 16th to June 27th, 2025. First, from June 16th to June 20th, tension continues to simmer behind the steel bars of the PCPD holding cells, where Anna orchestrates a necessary confrontation between Chase and Dante. Her years of experience tell her that silence breeds resentment, and the longer these two officers avoid their unspoken grievances, the more dangerous their fractured partnership becomes. With her trademark composure and quiet authority, Anna leads them into a locked room, away from the prying eyes of the rest of the department. There, emotional weight presses heavily as Chase finally confronts Dante about the choices that nearly got them both killed, while Dante pushes back with equal fury, questioning Chase's reliability in the field. Anna doesn't interfere with their exchange, but her eyes never leave them. Monitoring every flicker of emotion, every harsh word spoken not out of hate, but out of pain and betrayal that's been allowed to fester. Her intervention is not only a professional necessity but a personal attempt to rebuild the unity she once fought so hard to uphold among those she considers her family in blue. Elsewhere in Port Charles, a quieter but no less complex relationship unfolds as Carly opens her guarded heart to Brennan in a way she hasn't done for anyone in years. What began as an arrangement driven by strategic interests has transformed into something far more intimate, even unsettling. Carly, still scarred from betrayals of the past, finds herself drawn to Brennan's calm confidence and the sense of order he brings to her life. Over a late-night glass of wine in the back office of the Metro Court, she recounts moments of her life she rarely speaks of, revealing her vulnerabilities without shame. Brennan listens. Not just politely, but with a depth of attention that disarms her. She doesn't realize until that moment just how much she's come to rely on him, and her admission, spoken without calculation, stuns them both. She doesn't say, "I love you," but the look in her eyes, the quiver in her voice, conveys more truth than words ever could. And for Brennan, who's long lived in the shadows of secrecy and strategy, Carly's honesty cuts through like sunlight in a storm. At Port Charles University, inside the dimly lit office of Professor Dalton, Jocelyn and Vaughn huddle over a whiteboard filled with diagrams and notes. The plan is dangerous, some might say reckless, but the stakes are too high to play it safe. Jocelyn believes Dalton holds encrypted files on WSB activities, and her mission is clear: gain access to his phone without raising suspicion. Vaughn, cool-headed and methodical, advises patience, but Jocelyn's urgency grows with every new revelation about what Dalton might be hiding. They map out possible distractions, predict Dalton's routine to the minute, and decide the best time to strike is during his Thursday night lecture when his attention will be divided. Yet beneath their calculated resolve lies a flicker of tension between them, one fueled not only by the high-stakes operation but by the unspoken emotions that linger in every glance they share. For Jocelyn, the lines between strategy and survival, between friend and ally, are beginning to blur dangerously. Complicating matters further is Emma, whose rivalry with Jocelyn is far more than academic. Her feelings for Dalton, confused and dangerously obsessive, have become a secret project all their own. Watching Jocelyn move closer to Vaughn and take bolder steps toward exposing Dalton only intensifies Emma's desire to control the situation. She crafts a persona, charming, mysterious, alluring, and begins spending more time around Dalton under the guise of student mentorship. What Emma wants, however, isn't just information. She wants attention, validation, power. In her mind, if she can seduce Dalton or manipulate him into trusting her over Jocelyn, she wins. But Emma doesn't realize how close she is to crossing a line from mischief into manipulation, or how her actions could endanger not just herself, but everyone connected to this dangerous man. Her competition with Jocelyn becomes a psychological game, with no clear rules, and stakes neither of them can fully comprehend. Amidst this growing web of secrets and strategies, a seemingly ordinary encounter takes on unexpected emotional weight when Gio, still trying to find his place in a world full of shifting allegiances, bumps into Emma near the library steps. It isn't just a chance meeting, it's a collision of hidden truths and unresolved feelings. Emma, startled, drops a folder filled with Dalton's lecture notes she had planned to sneak back into his office, and Geo instinctively helps her, his fingers brushing hers. Their eyes lock for a moment too long, and something passes between them, not quite trust, not quite suspicion, but a shared understanding that they're both caught in something bigger than themselves. Geo has no idea how deep Emma's game goes, but he senses her unease, and in his own quiet way, he tries to reach her. Emma, caught off guard by his warmth and sincerity, hesitates for the first time in days. In that moment, she is no longer the master of her performance, but simply a girl afraid of what she's become. Second, Curtis, still reeling from the unraveling of his marriage and the slow, painful erosion of trust that once held his life together, turns his focus toward an unlikely but potentially transformative opportunity, Michael. What begins as a quiet, almost tentative conversation over drinks at the Savoy quickly morphs into something more calculated. Curtis proposes a strategic alliance that could benefit Michael in more ways than one, particularly if the young Corinthos heir is willing to consider cutting ties with Drew and taking control of the future of Aurora. Curtis frames the offer not as betrayal, but as evolution. A chance to redefine what Aurora stands for and to ensure that it isn't dragged down by Drew's increasingly erratic behavior. Michael listens, his face unreadable, but the gears turning behind his eyes are unmistakable. He knows the game Curtis is playing, yet part of him is intrigued by the clarity of the proposal. In a world where allegiances shift like sand, Curtis offers something rare, a chance to wield real influence and reshape the narrative. The question now is whether Michael, driven by both legacy and revenge, will take the bait. Back at home, Portia's every attempt to mend what's broken between her and Curtis is met with polite resistance that quickly curdles into emotional distance. Her words, once filled with hope and apology, now echo hollowly in their living room, unanswered and unacknowledged. Curtis listens, but he doesn't hear her anymore. The chasm between them has grown too wide, and instead of reaching for her hand, he finds himself seeking solace in Jordan's quiet strength. Jordan doesn't push or demand, she simply exists beside him in a way Portia no longer can. Their shared history, complex, painful, unresolved, becomes a lifeline he can't let go of. In small gestures and lingering glances, something buried begins to stir again. For Portia, the realization is devastating. Each night she comes home to an emptier space, each morning she watches him drift further away, not toward anger, but toward someone else. Her attempts to hold on are met with silence, and in that silence, the inevitability of their end settles in. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Trina and Kai find themselves blindsided by a cryptic message from a legal representative linked to an obscure estate in California. At first, they assume it might concern the documentary they're co-producing. A project meant to expose injustices and amplify voices left unheard. But the phrasing is personal, and the documents attached carry names that Trina has never seen before. What begins as curiosity quickly transforms into dread as the pair uncovers hints that point to a hidden chapter of Trina's family history, one her mother never dared to reveal. Kai, both supportive and increasingly entangled, urges caution, but Trina can't help herself. The possibility that everything she knows about her parentage may be a lie forces her into a spiral of questions and suspicions. And worse, it threatens to unravel not just her identity, but the delicate balance of the work and relationship she's been building with Kai. Their project, once a source of pride, now becomes a lens through which she sees her own fractured lineage. As the emotional tides shift, Sonny sharpens his attention on a far more dangerous and immediate concern. He corners Sidwell in a secure meeting spot and demands answers, not in the form of vague intelligence reports or bureaucratic dodges, but real, actionable truth. Sidwell, ever the elusive operative, tries to deflect, but Sonny isn't in the mood for games. He's convinced that Natalia's escape from the shadow of her captors is being jeopardized from within, and all signs point to Sidwell either withholding something, or worse, sabotaging the plan entirely. Sidwell finally admits that new intelligence has emerged, complicating their strategy, but his vague explanations only heighten Sonny's suspicions. The tension between them threatens to explode as Sonny senses that his enemies are not just on the outside, but potentially embedded within his own network. Whether Sidwell is playing both sides or simply in over his head remains unclear, but Sonny knows one thing for certain: any misstep now could cost Natalia her life. As the week unfolds, a storm of secrets, shifting allegiances, and painful reckonings threatens to sweep through Port Charles, upending lives in every corner of the city. Michael's choice could fracture his already strained relationship with Drew and reshape the future of Aurora. Curtis's emotional migration toward Jordan signals the quiet death of his marriage, while Portia braces for the heartbreak she always feared but never wanted to face. Trina's discovery could dismantle the identity she's spent her entire life building, and the pressure to reconcile the past with the truth grows unbearable. Meanwhile, Sonny's pursuit of answers may lead him straight into a trap set by enemies who have been hiding in plain sight. The lines between loyalty and betrayal blur as each character confronts choices that will either redeem or destroy them. And through it all, the specter of unfinished business and hidden agendas looms large, promising that the next revelation might be the one that pushes someone too far. Third, in the shadows of Port Charles, Sasha finds herself spiraling into a fog of grief, confusion, and raw maternal fear as the health of baby Daisy suddenly becomes uncertain. What should have been a routine pediatric checkup quickly escalates into a tense series of questions from doctors, hushed conversations in sterile hallways, and cryptic glances that Sasha cannot ignore. Every beep of the monitor, every word she doesn't fully understand, feeds the mounting terror inside her. She clings to Daisy with every fiber of her being, not just as a mother, but as a woman who has already lost too much to endure another heartbreak. The isolation returns like an old friend, and the strength Sasha has fought to reclaim begins to waver. Alone in a hospital chair, rocking Daisy to sleep under flickering fluorescent lights, she prays for answers, for stability, for something, anything, that might assure her this child won't be taken from her too. In those quiet hours, her worst fears take root. Eventually, it's Michael who shows up, not out of obligation, but out of something deeper. Their long-overdue conversation begins awkwardly, but quickly turns into a release of pent-up emotions and shared sorrow. For years, they danced around the complexities of their history, avoiding the deeper pain that tethered them together through Daisy. Now, faced with the very real possibility that Daisy's health might be in jeopardy, they lay everything bare. Sasha admits the sleepless nights, the guilt, the crushing anxiety of not knowing if she's doing enough. Michael confesses his own shame at being absent, the helplessness of watching from the sidelines. There's no blame, no accusations, only two people with fractured hearts trying to hold on to the one thing that still matters. Through this conversation, something shifts. Michael sees Daisy not as a responsibility from the past, but as a connection to a future he wants to be part of. For Sasha, the idea of not doing it all alone anymore is both terrifying and liberating. At the same time, a dangerous political game unfolds elsewhere. Drew, emboldened by his slipping grasp on power and desperate to reclaim influence, pressures Jason to confront Michael with a proposition, one that, on the surface, seems beneficial, but masks ulterior motives. Jason, ever the stoic observer, listens carefully but quickly recognizes the manipulation behind Drew's plan. The proposal would isolate Michael, placing him at odds with Carly and opening the door for Drew to reshape Aurora in his image. Jason, torn between loyalty and integrity, refuses. What starts as a tense negotiation explodes into a bitter argument, with Jason finally calling out Drew's growing ambition and recklessness. Drew, frustrated and feeling cornered, lashes out. The bonds between them begin to fray, and for the first time since Jason's return, the illusion of unity shatters. What remains is a dangerous rivalry, one fueled by betrayal, pride, and an unresolved battle over who truly controls the legacy of their fractured family. Meanwhile, Willow faces the most agonizing decision of her life. The court proceedings regarding custody of Wiley and Amelia continue to evolve, and Drew, who once stood beside her as a partner and protector, is now viewed as a liability. The legal team representing Carly and Michael subtly hint that distancing herself from Drew may open the court's favor back toward her. It's a devil's bargain, one that would cost Willow the man who stood by her through illness, fear, and betrayal. But with her children slipping further from her reach, Willow begins to see that her continued alliance with Drew may be the very anchor pulling her under. Torn between loyalty and motherhood, she silently visits the courtroom gallery alone one morning, watching the judge, listening to the rhythms of testimony, and imagining what it would be like to hold her children again without fear of reprisal. The weight of the decision crushes her, and though she hasn't made a final move, her silence toward Drew grows colder with each passing day. Finally, the week of June 23 to June 27 in Port Charles is poised to explode with revelations, betrayal, and the consequences of the power struggles simmering behind courtroom walls. The custody battle that once appeared to be settled in Michael's favor may be far from over, as whispers begin to swirl about what really happened behind closed doors. Social media has ignited with speculation following a leak connected to Cameron, suggesting that Judge Eva Heron may have been blackmailed into ruling in Michael's favor. The implications of this are seismic. If proven true, not only would the legitimacy of the custody ruling crumble, but Michael could find himself at the center of a legal and moral firestorm that threatens to destroy the very family he fought to protect. The shadows around this case grow darker with each passing hour, and it's only a matter of time before the truth claws its way to the surface. There are quiet rumors, whispers in the Metro Court corridors and hushed phone calls at the Quartermaine mansion, that Tracy may have played a key role in securing the custody outcome. While no evidence has yet emerged, Tracy's fingerprints have a habit of appearing where leverage and influence are required. If Michael discovers that she manipulated the system to help him win, he will be faced with an impossible dilemma: protect the legacy and custody he has fought for, or come clean and risk losing everything. The idea that someone in his corner may have crossed a line he never would have dared touch on his own is enough to send Michael into a spiral of doubt and desperation. The facade of righteous fatherhood begins to crack as he contemplates the cost of his victory and the secrets he must now protect at all costs. Willow's path is no less tangled. Though she has promised to sever ties with Drew for the sake of regaining time with her children, her heart continues to pull in his direction. The complicated magnetism between them, born of shared trauma and fleeting hope, refuses to dissolve, no matter how fiercely she tries to rationalize it away. Drew remains a ghost in the corners of her mind, and their emotional bond is a thread she cannot fully sever. Even as she prepares to demonstrate to the court that her relationship with him is over, there's a part of her that hesitates, a flicker of doubt about whether this sacrifice will truly bring her closer to the life she wants with Wiley and Amelia. She doesn't say his name aloud anymore, but when she closes her eyes at night, it's Drew's voice she hears, reminding her of everything they once promised each other, and everything she may still be willing to risk. Curtis, meanwhile, navigates murky waters of his own. Tasked with tracking down Jacinda, the elusive escort whose presence could either bury Drew or redeem him, Curtis follows a trail of half-truths and shadowy leads until he finally locates her in a sleepy motel outside Syracuse. The meeting is tense, filled with hesitation and unspoken demands. Curtis offers her a deal: money for testimony that could implicate Drew in two damning ways. First, that he paid for a night of intimacy with her, and second, that he knowingly used ketamine during their time together. Jacinda listens, but her eyes remain cautious. She knows what her words are worth, and more importantly, she knows what a lie could cost her. The question now is whether Curtis's offer is compelling enough to make her bend the truth, or if Jacinda will name her own price, one far more dangerous than Curtis anticipated. As Drew's past begins to unravel, so too does the calm exterior he has tried to maintain. The possibility of Jacinda re-entering the picture sends him into a state of controlled panic. He begins reaching out to old contacts, trying to bury information before it surfaces, but every move he makes only digs the hole deeper. And looming over all of it is Nina, whose own house of cards threatens to collapse. Her former connection to Drew, once a minor chapter in her personal history, now feels like a liability. But worse still is her link to the drug trade, a dark entanglement that, if exposed, could not only destroy her career but place her behind bars. Nina has played with fire for too long, and now the embers of her past have begun to reignite. The secrets she's kept hidden. From the men she's loved, the empire she's built, and the daughter she hopes to win back, are growing too heavy to bear in silence.